No matter how much Kamala Harris tries to change her image, she cannot change this fact. She is the most extreme liberal candidate in the history of our country by far. She's an extreme radical left lunatic.
Yeah, that was Donald Trump last night in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, after the controversy erupted in Chicago about Kamala Harris and her background, her ethnic makeup, her ever-changing ethnicity. What a day yesterday was, and what a day today is turning out to be. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in once again for my friend Chris Plant, who returns from his cruise next Wednesday. Thanks for being here. And welcome to August. We are finally in August. And what is it, 95 and a half days until the election? Some of you will be voting early, some states voting in September. Things really got heated yesterday in terms of the election. And I want to put a pin in the day, July 31st, yesterday. Was it the beginning of a campaign or was it the end of a campaign? Was yesterday the beginning of campaign 2024, or for a candidate, was it the end of campaign 2024? We will discuss today on the Chris Plant Show. And you're welcome to be part of the conversation, as always, as usual, 888-630-9625. So was the end of July the end of a campaign? There are many rabid liberals who are pointing at Donald Trump saying, you just ended your campaign after what he said in Chicago at the gathering of black journalists, which, for people who say we shouldn't ever be using race to define people, to separate people, they're always focused on that, aren't they? Imagine if there were a meeting of the white journalists. There wouldn't be too much of a public outcry, would there? No, there wouldn't. Of course there would. There'd be torches in the streets. Oh, we can't say torches because then that'll trigger Joe Biden and he'll look for veins bulging in their faces. But yesterday in Chicago, when we were on the air, there was breathless anticipation on many in the mainstream media. They were gathered outside the event in Chicago, reporting that Donald Trump was going to be speechifying and taking questions for an hour. And it got heated early. That would be an understatement, I think, to say that it got heated early. And we have to go through it because there was, I believe, a master class held yesterday, and it was not by the ABC News journalist. And even though I also thought some of the questions from Harris Faulkner, who was on the stage as well asking questions, I thought some of her questions were pretty good. I think the masterclass actually came from Donald Trump. And I also want to know if you've seen the video, because there is a video bubbling up on the internets that shows or appears to show Donald Trump taking the moderator's water bottle and tightening the lid on it. Was Donald Trump messing with the moderator? Was he messing with the ABC News reporter? Was he twisting that lid so hard that when she finally went to take a drink, she would not be able to? I thought that was pretty interesting, pretty funny. But I did think Donald Trump held his own very well. And as many have said, the term "into the lion's den" has been used on multiple outlets in the reports of Donald Trump going into this meeting of journalists. And I am using the appropriate air quotes with my fingers. Kamala Harris wasn't there. The journalists, the society, reportedly told Donald Trump that it would be a Q&A with the candidates for president, with the two leading candidates for president. And it was only Donald Trump yesterday. Well, we know why Joe Biden wasn't there, because he doesn't know where he is. And he's pulled himself out of the campaign. We know that for certain. Kamala said she couldn't be there because of the funeral for Sheila Jackson Lee. I guess she's speechifying there today. I think that is the official event today. And, you could give her a pass on that. They were in the same Congress together. Sheila Jackson Lee in the House and Kamala in the Senate. And then as vice president, no doubt they worked together. I'm sure they did. But the aftermath is very interesting to me. Kamala Harris is certainly being handled with kid gloves and being given every pass, while Donald Trump is hit with every negative, every single one. And there are, as I've said, myriad clips from yesterday. There is a 2.5-minute segment of the opening question and then Mr. Trump's response that I think need to be broken down, and we need to chop it up and get into it. And we will. We will. But there are other news stories out there that we have to monitor today. As dawn was breaking this morning, we got word that Americans Paul Whelan and Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, who have been held in Russia for years, are finally being released in a prisoner swap being called historic. And the one thing that doesn't seem to be getting any attention, and I'm happy these Americans are finally getting set free, and gee, isn't the timing curious? It's a distraction from the campaign, but it's also going to be used by the campaign to talk about the Biden-Harris administration. I'm sorry I screwed that up. Take that out in the edit, Jeff. Please put in the correct designation. The Harris-Biden administration. Yeah, that's what the left media is starting to call the Biden administration. It's now no longer the Biden-Harris administration. It's the Harris-Biden administration because they're making Kamala the lead on all of this. Will they also label her, tattoo her with all of the bad accomplishments of this administration? Can we say bad accomplishments? All of the things that happened under their watch. They're going to try and claim credit for this, but I need to know, you need to know, we as Americans need to know, who did we surrender to Russia to get back these two Americans? We need to know. Hopefully somebody will do a little journalism on this. We have a habit of giving really bad folks back to Russia and Iran and whomever realizes that kidnapping is good business in exchange for our innocent Americans. Remember the bad guy we surrendered to Russia, gave back to Russia after they released a WNBA player who had been locked up because she violated the laws as regards to marijuana. And we gave back a killer. So I just wonder who we're giving back on this one. We'll keep an eye on that. There are Olympic stories we have to cover today. Yes, we had a little more progress in the Olympics yesterday, but so did China. So did France. You know, the host country always seems to get some kind of adrenaline boost in its athletes. And we saw our Katie Ledecky win yet another gold medal. Isn't she spectacular? But we have woke news out of the Olympics. As we warned you yesterday, biological males are being allowed to compete in women's boxing. And one match yesterday ended after 45 seconds when the woman in the ring gave up, stopped, because she was tired of being beaten by a man. And I know there are several countries that are questioning whether or not they should allow their athletes to compete. There's a Polish boxer, a woman who said, I'm not going to go in there. I'm a champion in my sport, but I don't want to face a man. That's not fair when you get to a certain point in your life. If you go through puberty as a man, you have a different muscle development that happens than women. There's an advantage. So this is an embarrassment to this already embarrassed Olympic Committee. An Algerian boxer who has been in the center of this storm of controversy about the Olympics, won the first matchup against an Italian fighter in 46 seconds. I said 45. It's 46 seconds. The win was given to someone named Iman Khalif. After Angela Carini just said, I can't do this anymore, struck twice in the face. Twice in the face. Had to have her headgear readjusted because the man was hitting her so hard. Yes, that's right, I said a man. It's a man. Let's be honest about it. This is so wrong. The Italian was crying when it all ended. And can you imagine having worked 4 years? 4 years of your life. We know what Olympic athletes do to represent their country. We know what they must do to be in that kind of condition and focus. And they spend all that time preparing, then to have it all happen. That the Olympics allow a man to come in and fight against you, a woman. It's infuriating. Maybe there's a mass walkout. Maybe they need a handful of young ladies to stand up and say, we're not going to take this anymore. We need a bunch of Riley Gaines to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that. No, we are not. We also have, there's economic news from yesterday that we should talk about. There is a ton of news that was bubbling yesterday, but the focus will be on Donald Trump and his comments. And there also should be some focus on Donald Trump and his rally last night in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And there will be a rally again in Butler. He's going back. He's going back to Butler. He talked about it briefly last night. But we'll get into all of this today, as there certainly is a mountain of audio and video for us to share. Obviously, the video won't be shared with you. But we have Kamala's response to Donald Trump. We have Trump's response to Kamala's response to Donald Trump. It is going to be a mass of clips today. There's an update on the Project 2025 leader who left. The guy who was behind Project 2025 is speaking publicly. Donald Trump has a new big supporter that should also help his cause. We'll dive into as much of this as we can, and of course your calls as well. Let's check in. Let's check in first with Maureen in Culpeper, Virginia. Hello, Maureen. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Glad to talk to you. I really enjoy when you're on.
Thank you. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, I was really angry when Brittany Griner was released and Evan and Paul were not included in that swap. Either they should have been released with her or instead of her, but the fact that the Biden government ignored them at that time truly angers me.
Well, Maureen, first of all, I must correct you. Even back then, it was the Harris-Biden administration, because we know Joe was brain-addled, and he certainly should not have been given the blame for that negotiation. And if they had released, but wait a minute here, if they had released a Marine like Paul Whelan, I think he was a Marine, correct me if I'm wrong, people, and if they had released a journalist as well as an LGBTQ member, the LGBTQ members released, the WNBA players released, would have been completely overshadowed. So, you know, the agenda has to be protected at all costs here. Just saying.
But sadly, you're right. But perhaps instead of the Harris-Biden, should we be calling it the Obama-Rice?
Maybe we should. Maureen, now you've got me going down a road here. Maybe we should call it the Obama-Soros administration. Maybe that's where this goes.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I have to take a break. Maureen, thank you. It's very good question. Yes. And very good statement. Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan should have been released with Brittany Griner or before Brittany Griner. But this administration, whichever one we call it, didn't do that. It's Mike Opelka on a Thursday. Welcome to August on the Chris Plant Show.
You're listening to the Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka with you, and I was talking with Jeff Wolf as we're trying to navigate this tsunami of clips from yesterday. We left here 20 and a half hours ago thinking, that'll be a normal, slow day. And then, boom, we get hit with everything. Everything. And there are stories that are getting completely glossed over. We still don't have an answer on what the heck's going on in Venezuela with their election. Israel is on the brink of an all-out war against maybe Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. And some of Iran's friends will no doubt join in. We don't know really what's going on between Russia and Ukraine because that suddenly fell off the map, didn't it? Other than this prisoner swap with Russia, which we need to know the details on who we're surrendering. And then there's our own mess here at home. So it's a buffet of opportunity for us to talk today. A buffet. Let's grab another quick call or two if we can before we get out of here on this break. Jeff in Hagerstown, Maryland. Hello, Jeff. What's going on?
Just another day at the office, hey, buddy?
Yes, it is. They give us, as Chris likes to say, they give us too much.
My call is, I was wondering what your thoughts were on Kamala not showing up for the press conference yesterday with Donald Trump. I've got some thoughts on that, but I think for some roundabout reasons she was told to sit this one out. What do you think?
Well, there is a plausible acceptance of her excuse because she is saying she's going to be attending the funeral of Sheila Jackson Lee. She'll be speaking at that funeral. So you got that kind of squishiness. Okay. They initially told her she could do it on a Zoom. And then I'm sure Trump's people went, hey, wait a second. You told us we had to be here in person. And she's technically not the candidate yet. She is still not the candidate. That starts today. The Democrat roll call, they're doing a virtual nominating roll call, begins today and it ends, I think, on the 5th of August. And then Kamala's first campaign appearance with her running mate, which we assume will be the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, that happens on the 7th. So they've kind of laid this out. And because she's technically not the nominee, Jeff, that's probably why she's dodging it as well. And on top of it, she's terrible live. Still hasn't done a live interview since she became the candidate. Maybe she will. We'll find out. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
This is The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for the Cruising Chris. Oh, that's a good name for him. Cruising Chris Plant. And Michael Piercy. I don't have an alliterative title for Michael Piercy. He's on the boat as well. I hope they're enjoying it. Looks like they are. And they will return next week. Till such time, it's me here. Jeff Wolf pushing the buttons. Jane's on the phones today. And you're welcome to be a part of our conversation on several topics today. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Wow, what a day. I did a little diving into my sources on the swap between Russia and the United States as it relates to prisoners. We know we're getting Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, who was nabbed a year ago, March, and then just recently sentenced to 16 years in a maximum security prison in Russia. 16 years. Wow. And Paul Whelan, who's been in a while as well, And what we're hearing is this could be as many as 30 prisoners swapped between the two nations. 30. This would be like the biggest trade since Cold War days. Maybe 30. And how they're monitoring this is really kind of interesting. They track government planes in Russia. The people who are watching this track government planes and watch them going to regions, places where the prisoners are typically held. And if government planes are going to the area of Siberia where there are usual political prisoners being held, well, you assume there may be somebody leaving. So we'll get details on this, but I just want to make sure we get the best deal possible. I have zero confidence that this administration will negotiate the best deal possible. We just don't do that. The Harris-Biden administration, and remember, just everybody remember, that's how we are referring to the current administration, president and vice president. And do you get up in the morning and you spin the wheel and see which role you get to play today? It kind of feels that way, and yes, I am mocking them. But Joe Biden is not acting as president. At least it certainly doesn't feel like it. Not since he announced that he was stepping down without telling us why he was stepping down from the campaign. He's still the president. He is the lame ducko president at this point. But we see Kamala Harris practicing now, the pretend presidency. And since they built that little television studio on the White House grounds, maybe that's where they're holding presidential practice every day. And they have their friends very deep into Hollywood, the Spielbergs, etc. They're probably teaching her the show. They are more and more looking like episodes of Veep. And if you know what I'm referring to, then you understand it. But I just wonder, do they get up in the morning? Do they spin the wheel? Do they flip a coin? Is it whoever gets up first and eats all their breakfast, that person gets to be the president du jour? Because it really doesn't matter if it's Obama and his crew giving the orders from somewhere wearing sweatpants, as he said on Colbert's show. It just doesn't matter, does it? It really doesn't matter. More details coming out about the outrage at the Olympics, about the female who got the snot beat out of her in 45 seconds by a biological male. And there is a growing outrage. And the reason why this is really so critical, and the reason why this is actually something that people should be very honest about, there is a young volleyball player. She was 17 at the time. She had her eyes on a college scholarship, and she would play volleyball in college and then get that education that so many young athletes hope to get if they can't afford it. But if their athletic prowess is so great, they think, wow, I could just get a scholarship. Her name is Peyton McNabb. 17 years old. Peyton McNabb. She was playing volleyball when a transgender opponent slammed the ball and hit her in the face and cut short whatever future she had in the sport. The ball was reportedly traveling, based on all the analysis, more than 70 miles an hour. Absolutely hammered by a transgendered athlete, a man pretending to be a woman. That hit gave young Miss McNabb brain damage and paralysis on her right side. She was not going to be getting a college scholarship. She now has difficulty walking without falling. This is a beautiful young girl. A beautiful young girl. And by the reports, and there is video to show this incident, there's video of this incident. The nearly 6 foot tall trans player, man pretending to be a woman, cackled in delight when the slam ball hit her in the face and sent her to the floor. And the other teammates, I'm sure they all high-fived. Imagine. This is because we are not following the science. Now, if you look at all the latest changes in the world, as the perceptions of what we've been doing with the trans madness are finally swinging back to science and normal and being honest with ourselves. England has stopped the puberty blockers for kids. England has stopped the genital mutilation of children. So has, I think, Sweden and several other of the Nordic region countries are doing the same thing. But here in America, no, we're fighting it. We're fighting it because it's a multi-billion dollar industry. And now you're finally getting to see some really graphic examples, not just with the latest update on young Miss McNabb. She's 19 years old right now. She should be heading towards her junior year in college, probably would have been playing for a big NCAA team. She's from North Carolina, but instead, she's just struggling to get through every day because somebody wanted to bend to the woke madness of gender identity and gender mutilation and all of this insanity. And now it's in the boxing arena in the Olympics. And the person who hammered the young Italian boxer actually failed the gender test in a boxing match a year ago, but the IOC changed some of the designations, the rules. So technically, based on what the woke IOC allows, this person was allowed to get in there. It's just awful. It's awful, awful, awful. And you have to give a lot of props to I'm not a Harry Potter guy, so I don't get all the Harry Potter stuff. But the woman who wrote all the Harry Potter books, J.K. Rowling, has been one of the most outspoken critics of the madness of gender mutilation and the acceptance of this insanity. And she's been railed against publicly by those on the left because of it. But she has so much money, she doesn't care. She's got the proverbial FU money. So that's a little Olympic update. Oh, by the way, we did score for the first time. This is breaking Olympic news. We did score a gold medal in rowing, men's rowing, for the first time since 1960. So that's a good thing. And as we get closer and closer to the track and field stuff, I'm hoping we're going to catch up to and bypass the Chinese Olympic team. But I really think that it would be nice to see somebody in the mainstream media cover the controversy over what the Olympics are allowing to happen to women. The party that says they want to elevate women, the party that says they want women to succeed, appears to be doing everything they can to cancel those women. Every single thing. All right, I see a couple of phones lining up here. We should grab a couple of calls here. It's Mike Opelka, as I said. I'm in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. Tim is in Middleburg, Virginia. Hello, Tim. Welcome to the program. Line 7 is Tim. Hello, Tim.
Fine job, my friend. Yeah,
Thank
can
you.
you hear me?
Yes, you are. Coming in loud and clear, Tim.
Okay. Hey, real quick, great job. I came in a little bit late on your show today, and I heard some mention of a prisoner swap. I think it was between the United States and Russia. I couldn't quite make it out. But if that's the case, do you think if we gave them back Brittany Griner, they might up the ante on what they're going to return to us?
So you're saying we should offer Griner back to them? That's an interesting concept, Tim. I don't think Russia has a WNBA. And if they did, maybe they wouldn't need a power forward like Brittany Griner.
No, just a thought.
No, it's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Let's go to line 2 and Sue in Damascus. Hello, Sue.
Hello, good morning. I wanted to make a point that allowing these biological males to compete against females, as what happened with that female boxer, These are obviously failed male athletes, and they want a medal so bad they're willing to knock the lights out of a woman to get it. So my point is, what is the difference between doing that and saying that able-bodied athletes are allowed now to compete in Special Olympics or Paralympics? Let the able-bodied athletes compete if they want a medal so bad. I see no difference.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's exactly what even the press secretary yesterday, Cringe Jean-Pierre, said that nobody should be able to tell you how you identify. So if you walk into the Olympic Committee, the Paralympic Committee, and say, I identify as a person who is disabled, and I would like to run the 100-meter dash, and I'm faster than everybody else, you must allow me. And this is the madness on display, Sue. You're right, but, that's a sacred cow, both the Special Olympics and the Paralympics, so I doubt anyone will make that effort. But it just points out what we saw with, and I'm using the term this person chooses, a gentleman named Leah Thomas, who wanted to swim for the United States of America, was not allowed to because of one of the restrictions from the IOC. But apparently men can box and fight against women now. It really is crazy. But that's a very good point, Sue. I appreciate you making that. Thank you. Let's grab line 6 and Paul in Baltimore, Maryland. Hello, Paul.
Good morning, Michael. Great show.
Thank you, sir.
I think that whenever President Trump gets the opportunity to turn the questions and the snarky comments made by whoever, that he should take it. So in other words, when he was asked by the journalist, I guess from ABC News, whether or not Harris was a DEI hire, I wish he had said that, in fact, President Biden said he would hire a woman of color as not only a VP, but as an associate justice in the Supreme Court. I think that President Trump should take that statement, turn it around on him, and state that the best candidate, regardless of color or gender, should be selected for the job.
Wait a minute, Paul. Are you saying that this country should function as a meritocracy where the people who are getting the praise and the hires should be based solely on success and actually doing the job that's needed?
Just like the NFL.
Wow, you really have lost it, mister. You will not be allowed in the DEI meeting today where the free lunch will be handed out. But although everybody gets the same scoops of everything. You get one scoop of this, one scoop of that. So nobody's going to get more or less. I just want you to be sure, Paul, that you understand that.
Yes. I'll do my best to get my share. I think that we need to concentrate, again, on the issues. Make our point, turn it around on them, and make it about the issues, point by point, as President Trump said yesterday.
Yeah, we're going to break that down, too, because he did make a very good case, and he got great support from Tom Cotton. He got great support from Byron Donalds. We've got clips from all of them. It's going to be a busy two-thirds of the show, and we'll try and take care of all of it. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you being there. I have to step aside, take a break. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. He will return next week, triumphantly, no doubt. And hopefully we will not have left things in too big of a mess. I was just checking out on social media, as this show is often connected on social media. So many of you listening and checking in and mentioning things like Barton mentioned. Hello, Kamala has Air Force Two and a staff of hundreds being in Chicago 24 hours before the funeral is not a challenge. Being in Chicago 3 hours before the funeral was not a challenge. But Barton adds, risking an unscripted question could trigger the DNC regime to switch candidates again. That's still a possibility. Even though the roll call, the virtual roll call of the DNC is going on as we speak. So good point. But, it is a convenient excuse. She can also say, well, I didn't want to spend the carbon capital, to save the planet from the non-existent CO2 crisis. Steve, who I think is in Virginia, writes, I recall one of the male boxers is Algerian, pretending to be female, and homosexuality is illegal in Algeria, so in Iran, they force them to get sex changes. Maybe that's the deal. That's a possibility. We will see. We will keep an eye on that. This is about the unfolding Olympic controversy regarding men boxing against women because they feel like they're women. In the brains, they think they're trapped in the wrong body. It is not right, and it's not okay. We are going to do a deep dive next hour on both the speech in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania by Donald Trump and Donald Trump's interaction with the Black Journalists event in Chicago. It really was, I think, the pivot point in the campaign. We will see if that happens. We'll talk about that. Let's grab a quick call about that. Let's check in with line 5 and Steve in Fairfax, Virginia. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Michael. Glad to be on your show. And you got a smorgasbord of topics for sure. First, I want to say, the NABJ, and I'm a black conservative, have been. But let's be fair. The NABJ was founded in 1975 on the heels of Jim Crow and true discrimination against black professionals. And so that's how they were founded, and they retain that name for obvious reasons. So let's be fair to the name and the history of the organization. But that said, that's not my comment. My primary comment is that interview that Trump was at, it just really was an utter shame. She did not even acknowledge that he was the victim of political violence. She did not even have the professional or human decency to show some compassion to the former president of the United States, a presidential candidate, over what he suffered as a victim of political violence. For her to take that hostile interrogative tone with him was true disrespect, and she's being lauded, which she does not deserve. And I agree with your previous caller.
Well, your great point, Steve. I'm getting beaten by the clock, but I let you do a little speechifying there, and that was all good stuff. Very accurate. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show.